Right. So, what we discussed in the previous session about the data analysis process in reference to the role of a data analyst and all, what is the process which normally being a data analyst we have to follow is what something we have discussed in the last session. Okay. Now, when it comes to the responsibilities of a data analyst, okay, what must be the responsibilities being a uh, data analyst we have to be performed, right? So for any of the project or a work, what is that we are doing is what something we need to know and understand. Okay, now responsibilities of a data analyst are as follows. Okay, this is what generally. So here we are going to write down the what are the responsibilities of a BA is what something we are discussing now, right? So what must be the responsibilities of a data analyst when they are working on the data analysis side is what something we are discussing. Now, if being a data analyst, we are working in the data analysis side, as I mentioned earlier, this is nothing to do with any specific organization, right? So specific domain or something, right? It's nothing to do with domain or something. So being a data analyst, analyzing the data is what something we have to be done, right? So we have to be performed. So when we want to do that, the first thing, what is that we must be knowing is to understand the basics of data. So first of all, we must be knowing about understanding the basics of data. This is also including what is that you want to know. Okay, including all the time saying, okay, not only the responsibilities of a data analyst, but what is that you wants to know and what is that you wants to learn from now onwards. Right? So including that, I'm explaining this to you. Right. So understanding the basics of data, followed by the types of data, is what something you must know. Okay, point number one. Responsibilities followed by what we require for a data analyst. Okay, that's what generally here I'm writing now. Right. So first of all, we should understand the basics of data because what are the different types of data we have. The basics of data and all everything is what something we must be knowing. Point number one. Second, we must be knowing about the layers in the application. Okay, what because when we are developing any, for example, there is an application we are developing. Layers of application is what something we have to know, right? So, for example, application layer, business logic, and data layer. Data layer is what something we have to know. So, this is point number two, because we have to learn from the basics. When we are working on data analysis, we must be knowing about what data stands for, what are the different types of data we have. At the same time, layers on the application, something like front end, right? So, which is what we call it as front end layer, right? So, middle tier, presentation layer, right? So, at the same time, business logic layer, data layer, right? So, that sort of thing which is required for us. That is point number two. Next, we must be knowing about what are the uh, tables, right? So, data tables is what something we must be knowing, right? What are the different data tables we have and what data table stands for. So if you want to create these data tables and all, first of all, we must be knowing about ER diagrams. This ER diagrams is nothing but entity relationship diagrams. ER diagram stands for entity relationship diagrams. This is what generally we call it as ER diagram stands for. Right. So entity relationship diagrams is what something Okay, right? So we must be knowing about what are the different ER diagrams, all that, right? So this is what something we have to know, right? So what are the different relationship diagrams we have? So this is all something we have to be known with. Right? This is also one of the key element we have to see, right? ER diagrams, all that. Next, we must be knowing about DBMS. DBMS stands for Database Management System. First of all, we must be knowing about. So what is Database Management System? So why are we using this database management system? This is what you will be learning. And your responsibilities will also be included in, I will tell you. Okay. Right. So database management system is what something you must be knowing about. Next, you must be knowing about RDMS, which is called Relational Database Management System. Okay. This is also we call it as RDBMS, which stands for Relational Database Management System. This is also one of the point. So yeah, right. So we must be knowing about the basics of data, types of data, layers of application, what are the different data tables do we have. At the same time, we must be knowing about ER diagrams also. We must be knowing about what is DBMS, what is RDBMS, right? So these are the basics relating to the data, which first of all, when we want to transform our career towards data analysis, this is the stepping stone. First, this is what something which you have to know and which you will be learning during the course. Okay, first point. First. Second, where this data is being used. This data is something being used to extract for report generation purposes. So, wherein this is where generally we use a language, because normally there is a language which is called query language, because there are different languages we use in the field of IT. The first one is called markup language, which is called HTML, and all these things are comes under markup language. Markup languages and all everything are used to create front pages, etc. This is point number one. Second markup languages. Next is modeling language. Modeling language means if you want to model any requirements like use case diagrams, right? So these are all we call it as UML, modeling language. Next, third one is called programming language. If anybody wants to write any programming, coding developer to people, they use programming language. Next one is called query language. This is where generally SQL comes into picture. SQL stands for structured query language. Well, it is structured query language, right? So this is what we call it as SQL stands for, right? So understanding about SQL and how to work on SQL, what are the different queries we have, because insert, update, delete, right? So there are different queries will be used in SQL. This is what something we have to know, right? So first of all, you need to start with the basics of SQL and all. Followed by this, how to write queries, being into data analysis side and all, how to write queries and how to update the queries. This is what something you have to know. This is what something you will be learning during this course. So SQL understanding and SQL and knowing about SQL is also one of the key element you must be knowing. This is also you will be learning. Next, we must be knowing about Python, because Python is a programming language, I can say. One of the programming language majorly used in data related projects, because there are some projects which are relating to data. Okay. So whenever we are working on data related projects, Python is a programming language which normally we use. Okay, because normally there are a lot of programming languages, Java, Python, Kotlin, Ruby, right? So a lot of C++, C++ are very old ones. Okay, these are a lot of programming languages. So majorly when we are working on web applications, any client server applications or any enterprise applications. If you are using all that, we use Java. Java is a programming language, we use it. Second, whenever we are working on data related projects, something which is relating to data analysis side, whenever we are working on data related projects, this is where generally Python is what something you need to know, how to write program in Python, right? So there is a language called Python, you can show you. This is what generally Python, right? So here you can see, right? So this is for Python language. This is an editor. We call it as an editor. So where whatever the programming we have to write, everything is what something you need to know, right? So having a knowledge over Python is also required for you to learn, which you will be learning during this course. Okay. At the same time, there is SQL because in the last time also I shown you, there is a editor called MySQL. Okay. Right. So yeah, MySQL was there because MySQL is required for you to work on SQL. Okay. Just a minute. I think it's. We have already executed. Yeah. This is where generally SQL is, right? So this is what MySQL Workbench was. So MySQL Workbench is what something is being used, right? So first of all, you need to create how to create files, right? So how to open files, how to insert the data. At the same time, how to create queries. You can see here, right? So writing queries. So how to create the database, right? So how to connect the database server, right? So how to see the server status over here, right? So these are the different queries we have, right? So if you want to delete the data, insert the data, join it, replace, select, update, right? So there are different things will be there. So if we want to learn SQL and all everything, there are different languages again in this DDL, data definition language, data manipulation language, DML, DDL, right? So different things which you are going to be learning under the SQL part. Okay, this is also something which you need to have. So SQL is what something you have to be knowledgeable with. That is one thing. At the same time, programming language is called something relating to data related projects, Python. So if we want to become a data analyst, or if we want to know about the kind of responsibilities in reference to the data analyst role itself is concerned, first of all, because when I teach data analyst for the people who are in the field of IT, then we start from data analysis part. But as in when you are looking for a career transformation, you could see people from non-IT even. It's always better to know, first of all, what is data, what are the different types of data. And whenever we teach SQL also, usually you have to know about say, DBMS and RDBMS, right? So what is DBMS stands for, what is RDBMS, right? So what is meant by data tables? At the same time, you must be knowing about how to create ER diagrams because ER diagrams explain you the relationship between the data, what is that we are storing in the database. This is where ER diagrams come into picture, entity relationship diagrams, we call it as. So how to create ER diagrams, right? This is all something which you have to learn basically. These are the basic things which you have to be good with. Next, these are the two things. One is prominency of SQL. This is all something to write queries for the data what you have taken. At the same time, if there is any kind of programming we want to write, because especially whenever we are working on data analysis projects, especially whenever we are working on data analysis projects, the kind of programming language, as I mentioned you, is called Python. Python is a programming language which normally we use it. So that this is also one of the language we will be learning during the course of it. Okay, these are things. Now, when it comes to the responsibilities of a data analyst, what are the core responsibilities which being a data analyst we must be good with, right? So this is what something is what you need to know, right? So first of all, if being a business analyst, if you want to know about what are the different responsibilities are we going to do and all that. So first of all, extracting the data. So before extraction of data, storing the data, next extracting the data, next writing queries, because as I told you, as part of decision making, when they want to have any kind of decisions to be taken, as far as regular day-to-day standards, whenever we are working on, whenever we are working on the projects or whenever we are working on the organizations. So if you want to generate any kind of reports or if you want to see any information as such, normally we have to write queries. Different queries is what something we have to write. So this is where generally writing queries and all everything is what something we want to know. So storing the data, extracting the data, writing queries is what something we have to be performed as a data analyst. That is something which you have to be good with. That is what something you have to be good with in reference to the data analysis is concerned. Next, at the same time, we have to understand and set up the data processes also, right? Because how to create data processes and how to set up the data process. This is also something which you have to be performed whenever we are working on the data analysis side, as far as the responsibilities of a BA and all. So for all this and all, that is where generally we are learning SQL, because SQL is coming further, right? So because how to write queries, how to create a project, right? To how you have to store the data in SQL. At the same time, how to set up the data process. At the same time, it can be even we must be knowing about the kind of queries, right? So you can see, right? So there are queries, right, will be there. So if you want to write any queries or something like, or else if you want to create any kind of panels, right? So or else if you want to view any information, what is required for the project. At the same time, for example, as I told, right? So if you want to import the data, right? So data import. So if you want to data import and all everything, this data import option is what something which we have to be used with. So for anything, end of the day, we need to have a MySQL connect is what something we have to be have it, because unless until if there is no server connect, this is nets, and this is where something which it is not possible something for us to extract the data or to import the data to write the queries and all that. So MySQL Workbench is what something which is being used to uh, to write queries and all everything. This is something like an editor which you can see like Python, because even Python for programming, whatever the language of programming of Python are we doing, in the same manner, we require an SQL workbench which is required. But not only SQL workbench, but also we need to have a server also. This is where MySQL server we use, because normally prominent servers are two. One is Oracle, second is MySQL. These are the two prominent servers in reference to the usage I'm talking about. But when it comes to the, if you want to write SQL queries and all everything, MySQL server is what something we will be connecting first, right? So once we have connected, so rest of the writing queries, right? So how to import the data, right? All these things is what something we have to do whenever we are working on the SQL part, okay? Being into data analysis, how to extract that, right? This is all something which we have to do. So using this, what we can do, whatever the required information customer wants. For example, we have taken a point of sale system. Whenever we have taken a point of sale system, I think yesterday also I have told you, right? So there's an example, right? So for example, customer wants to know what was sales happened in last 3 months. right? It's 3 months, and maybe for some set of products, how much sales happened for this set of products. So some kind of customization is what something they want to know. If they want to know this customization and all everything, this is where generally writing queries and all everything is what something you have to learn, right? So for that reason, if you want to manage these responsibilities, SQL is what something you will be learning all this. Next, there is a programming language, because if you want to develop any functionality, let's say you want to develop some functionalities and all. For example, if you want to develop some functionalities on that. So whenever we want to develop any functionalities, it's always we have to write some business logic, because in the beginning also I told you, because there are different functionalities. For the different functionalities and all, there are different business logics we have to implement. So hence, if you want to develop any business logics for any of the projects, what is that we are working on, that if you want to implement any kind of business logics or something like, this is always important for us to uh, write down the programming for that, right? So because if you are working for web applications and all everything, then it is different, okay? Because Java programming language is what something you'll be learning, some abstractions, functions, classes, integers, right? Some sort of basics is required for you to know. So to write a code, etc., all that. In the same manner, even for Python also, there are some basics which one must be knowing with. So this Python is a programming language which will be used to define the business logic for a particular functionality. Whatever the functionality are we going to develop for the project. So if you want to define any functionality, if you want to implement any kind of business logic for a particular functionality and all, there must be a programming language, because SQL is not something used for that. Because SQL is something will be used to extract the data, etc. Right? So for that only SQL we use it. But when it comes to the Python itself is concerned, Python is not something of that sort, because Python is a language which is used to write the queries and all, right? So which is used to develop some functionalities, all that, right? So this is also something you will be knowing, you require. Next, in addition to that, next level, sometimes we have to create some boards also, dashboards and all everything is what something we have to know. So for that, it's always better to learn Power BI. Of course, that also I'll be explaining to you. So how to understand the Power BI on a high level note. Right? So because Power BI have lot many things, but what is required for data analysis, that is needed. Because if you want to create any, yeah. Because data visualization is what something we have to do. Right. So Power BI is also required, because Power BI is the one which is visualization of data. Because if you want to create any reports and all that, so if you want to visualize any kind of data, because Power BI development, Power BI developers, those are different roles, because we are not getting into that. But as part of data analysis is concerned, if there are any report generations and all, because we have to create reports also. Reports. Reports creation followed by that creating dashboards. Okay. Also, right? So this is where generally data visualization comes into picture. Means if you want to visualize the data, there are different tools are available online for this. Because two prominent tools, one is about Tableau, second is a Power BI. So Power BI is also one of the prominent tool for data visualization purpose we use it. So Power BI in context to data analysis, again I'm repeating, because Power BI have lot many things, but Power BI in reference to the data analysis, wherein to create some dashboards and all, because Power BI is also required for data visualization purpose. Because SQL is used for the queries, to write the queries, to extract the data, SQL is being used. But when it comes to the Power BI, it was not the case. Power BI is used for the data visualization purpose. And if you want to develop any business logic,
मेरो पिठा खाए साँच्चीकै भने मैले अघिबाट नचन नचन
please mute yourself. Pratigya, please mute yourself.
अब नचला अब तिमीलाई
Pratigya, please mute yourself. Pratigya, please mute yourself. Yeah, so dashboard creations and all everything is what something we have to be known. So how to create dashboards and all everything. So for that, there is a tool called Power BI. So there will be Power BI, right? So yeah, so this is where generally Power BI tool will be. So this Power BI is a tool which normally Tableau is one and second is Power BI. These are the two prominent tools we will be using to visualize the data, all that. Let me open. Just have opened it. It takes time for me to just a minute. Wait for a moment, it's open. Let it open. I think, yeah. So anyway, let it open now. So back in. Okay. Yeah. So this is where generally this Power BI and all everything is something is being used, right? So this is how generally Power BI is, wherein first of all we have to import the data from the workbook and all everything. And if you want to create any kind of dashboards and all everything, so yeah, so this is where generally Power BI is a desktop application. So this is something which is useful for us to create any dashboards and all everything is what something this is being used for. If you want to create any dashboards, etc., all that. So this Power BI is what something we will be using here. So these are the things which you will be learning from tomorrow onwards, because tomorrow I'll start slowly. I'll start with the database concepts first, because whatever we have discussed in here, you can see these are all the different visualization dashboards is what something we have to create, right? So because it can be pie graphs or bar graphs, right? So different charts can be prepared based upon the data what we have taken. Wherein here also SQL Server is what something will be used to connect with. So in reference to the Power BI, we are using this also. So we need to connect the server database and all everything, and we need to use it upon, right? So these are the three things which you will be learning. One is Python, second is about SQL, third is our Power BI. Again, I'm repeating, SQL is to extract the queries from the data, whatever we have given, so that whatever the required data, you can extract it. That is SQL. Power BI is to report generation. If you want to create any dashboards and all everything, Power BI is being used. Python is a programming language. If there is any business logic to be implemented and all everything, Python is what something you will be required to it. So whatever are we doing, either we may be using Python or we may be using SQL or we may be using Power BI. What is that are we learning is towards the direction of a data analyst. Okay, this is all about uh, today's session, right? So now when it comes to the responsibilities and all, these are the major responsibilities in connect to the remaining things where we have to create any kind of dashboards, or if you want to create any data setup processes, or if you want to write any queries to extract the data, all right? At the same time, if you want to develop any kind of business logic and all that, so writing Python. So these are the responsibilities which being a data analyst, we have to be performed to have a better and effective decision making whenever we are implementing any day-to-day activities in the organization is what something being a data analyst we have to be performed. Clear, guys? Understood?
Yes.